All right, good morning, everybody. For those of you that are joining me for the first time, my name is Dr. Jake Tucker, and I'm the president and CEO of Good Life Family Chiropractic. And today we're going to be talking about some of the key information that you need to make modifications to your spinal home care warm-up exercises. So the key tools that you'll need for this are, number one, your warm-up disc. The wobble disc is an essential part of this. It goes from just doing a upper back and neck warm up to incorporating the low back and pelvis. When you incorporate this, you can try to modify your warm-ups without this to include the pelvis, but it's very difficult. This really accentuates those movements and makes for an important tool to use in that process. The second one is the cervical traction device. Now, this unit comes with a door extender that allows you to do a straight drop to begin to open up your discs. And really how you want that set up is you want that looped through that door extender at the top and then tied off to the height. So when you're standing in place, that's right underneath your chin. But an important modification for both of these tools, so I want to go over real quick. First off, you'll notice that the cervical traction device here actually has some donuts. And if you have ligament damage, which if you've come in for an exam, I will show you on your x-rays whether or not you have ligament damage. What we want to do is we want to modify the traction by bringing these donuts together. When you bring those donuts together, it actually takes some stress off of the ligaments, which in a healthy spine, we do want to stretch a little bit by having that more narrow contact. But in a spine that already has damaged ligaments, we don't want to stress those ligaments anymore. So we create a softer surface, a wider surface that does not stress or damage those ligaments at all. And then there's one more modification that we can use, which if you have ligament damage and pain to the touch, you can, on the spinous processes, we can remove pressure to the spinous processes by creating that space between the two donuts here and allowing for that. Now, the second modification that we're going to make is with the wobble disc. So this one here, if you look at it around the edge, it has no divots. None whatsoever. And that is because I did not overly inflate this. Now, most of these discs should be overinflated, and what that does is when you hit that proper amount of inflation, it creates a divot in the side just like that. And that tells you that it's properly inflated. It creates enough instability in your spine that you can get full range of motion out of every single one of those discs. But for those of you that have balance issues, where too much motion actually starts to create pain, flattening this out so that it's not so big actually allows for more stability, allowing you to be able to still do the movements, incorporate the pelvis into those movements, and actually get that to move properly. The other modifications I want to go to are on our website here. So let me bring this up and scroll through this page that we have over here to the side. And so what we're looking at when we look at this page is a series of warm-ups, and I will have checked off these on your home care form before you get started with any of these. Not all of these are warm-ups. Some of these are isometric exercises. Some of them are passive molding, allowing the equipment to actually engage the spine on its own. But when we get down here to the traction unit, you can see here that it absolutely goes through utilizing that traction device in a standard case. That does not go through the modifications like I just did. Then we go down a little further and we see some of these exercises for the wobble disc. Now, the general one is the one that we went over yesterday in the Daily Essentials video 1, how to use that. And I'm not going to go over that again today, but I want to go through a couple of these modifications here for having an LD focus. So this is going to be done in conjunction with your standard usage. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. You can see what some of this looks like here. But this is specifically for people that have a scoliosis that's not responding to traditional care. And so you can see Dr. Tony Nalda off to the side here as he talks about the purpose of using that. And if you go to the website, you can turn the audio on for this. But I've gone ahead and muted this video so that you can hear me talk and it's not distracting to have him in the background. If you want to hear what he's saying, he is world renowned. He's the president of the Clear Institute for Scoliosis Reduction, and I highly recommend tuning into his stuff. We use his stuff on our website because he is the expert. He is the one who studied this for years and years and years, and he's the one that we learned this from. However, if you have a scoliosis, we actually need to stretch that out. The short side needs to be lengthened and the long side needs to be tightened. And so you do this by moving into that long side. So if your scoliosis goes off to the side, so say it curves like that, then we need to be bending to that side, to the long side of the curve. And so you bring that hand to the hip, put that other hand over top, and you can do that motion just like she does. And you want to pump through that about 20 times. Every time you warm up your spine, doing additional pumps just to that side so that we can stretch and strengthen those muscles down in the low back. And then the other modification here, I'm going to back out of this so we can see what's going on, is actually the posterior T12. So for someone that has too much back extension, so basically their posture when you're looking at them at an X-ray is too far reclined, we want to do this type of motion with your spine. So let me go ahead and bring this video up so everybody can see it here. But what this ends up looking like is seated on the wobble disc again, and we're going to let her demonstrate, but basically we want to mirror image that exercise and tighten the loose muscles and stretch the tight muscles. So she's going to be focusing on that. So you can see him explaining again. He's on mute so that he's not talking over me as I explain some of these modifications, but go in and listen to him. But you see how he's bringing her chest forward there? That's the motion that we want to accentuate if you've gone too far posterior, which many people with scoliosis have done. We don't want to emphasize too many things when correcting a scoliosis. We just want to emphasize the main limitation in this. So you will only get one of these modifications at a time. But if you have that posterior lean to your spine, we're going to take that forward by extending the low back a little more. So those are two of the modifications you make on that wobble disc. There's the anterior T12, which is the opposite. If you've leaned too far forward on your X-ray, then this is going to be the modification that we want to use on that wobble disc. And so he's going to be talking through that introduction again. I'll skip forward to that motion. But from that wobble disc, what we're going to want to do is we're going to extend backwards. Instead, it's that hunch forwards that's going to push T12 backwards, and you can see her doing that. So just hyper extending through that, or hyper flexing through that thoracic spine is going to be what we want to do to warm that up. And you can see her going through those motions there. So let's go ahead and back out of that one so we can get to the next exercise. Some more modifications there, and actually that's the last video. But we can do more modifications on the wobble disc. In fact, for many of you over the last couple of weeks, because we haven't been able to do as much intensive correction due to limitations of equipment use in the office, I've taught you mirror imaging, and you can do that with the wobble disc without doing these exercises specifically. And so if your head is offset this side, creating the mirror image to this side and then wobbling out of that can actually engage the brain in ways that retrains the posture to hold its side. And likewise, if you have head forward posture, by bringing your neck back and doing your wobbles, it can really emphasize creating those brain pathways, that neuroplasticity, and building up new neural pathways in your brain and in your spinal cord and in your posture that allow for you to get the correction that you need in your spine. So we've got an amazing video coming up on Monday evening. It's going to deviate from this Daily Essential series. Not that it's not Daily Essential. We're going to be doing our Nutrition 101 workshop. And what that's going to be about is really just nutrition, some of the myths that we've been told and we've believed our whole lives, maybe that we didn't even realize we're coming from a place that we shouldn't necessarily believe, but just the corruption that was behind some of the food choices that have been made and put into our daily recommendations, and how to recognize those and how to overcome those. And really, just a sneak peek, it really comes down to, eating the way that God made, eating the food that He provided, and not really deviating too much from that is really going to set you up for success. When you start getting into taking food out of its natural state and presenting it to you as a food-like substance in replacement for what God made, then that's where you're going to get into trouble. But we're going to go into all that. I'm going to be going through keys and reasons why you might need to get on the advanced plan or the core plan, which one of those is best for you, and then some of the key items in implementing that, as well as label reading, how to grocery shop. And we're going to be setting up a grocery store tour here in the next couple of weeks as grocery stores lessen their restrictions, and we're actually able to walk you through how I decide what I put in my grocery store or in my grocery cart when I'm walking through the grocery store. So again, tune in Monday night at 6:30 for another one of these live videos, and we're going to be going through it. Make sure you set aside about an hour for that so that we can get through all that information together. I hope you have a great weekend. For me, my family, and my team here at Good Life Family Chiropractic, you guys have a great day. Bye for now.